Welcome back to U.S. Farm Report this weekend. Mike North as well as Mark Gold joining us. Mike, you look at what's going on in the grains and the oilseed complex. I mean, absolutely brutal. It has been a bloodbath to finish July, hoping that we would start on a more positive note in August. That has not happened. But let's talk about the why. Why are we seeing such pressure on prices right now?
Well, I think you don't have to look much further back than the quarterly stocks report to speak to that. Reality is on-farm stocks are massive. We're getting to that time of the year when ultimately guys are preparing for the coming crop. They're cleaning bins out. And we just had a little rally in this market that incentivized movement. And so a lot of grain came to town, and that in concert with some rain that just hit the market, putting pressure on key technical numbers in the market, namely $4. And, as we broke through that yesterday, it just provides a little bit more momentum to the downside for the time being.
Mark, do you think we are too overdone? At this point, are prices too low?
Well, I think the experts out here have budgeted in a 183, 184 corn crop. Are we going to get that? I don't think so. I think there's too many holes in the crop, whether it's North Carolina, Kansas, Nebraska, Eastern Iowa. We've had a lot of problems out here. But for the most part, the country's in really good shape. Big crops get bigger. And I think the market's already budgeted all of this in. Plus, you look at the massive fund short position. They're short 350,000 corn, 200 and something thousand beans. That's 550,000 contracts between just the two of them, let alone add in the meal, oil, and the wheat. They're massive short positions. Now, how much lower can they drive this thing? You tell me. You tell me when the American farmer has gotten out of those old crop positions. I've always said the markets won't rally until the farmer is out of the grain. They started the year with record crops in the bin. They've been coming out of it in the last 30 days. But I still think there's more yet to come. But I think we're starting to slow this downside momentum. But it's been a rough July.
A really rough July. But there is some good news in it, and maybe that is the export sales. So, Mike, looking at some of the recent export sales just this week, USDA reporting a daily sale of 132,000 metric tons of soybeans for delivery to China. That news coming out Thursday. Wednesday, we're seeing a daily sale of 104,000 metric tons of corn for delivery to unknown destinations during the 2024-2025 marketing year. So we've seen a couple export sales this week. We saw some last week. Is this the silver lining of these low prices right now?
It is. And, I tell people all the time that a healthy market rewards both participants. And for the last several years, we've had a market that's really been farm friendly. It's really allowed, producers of grain to benefit from higher prices. But now look at the buyer. The buyer isn't necessarily enjoying high prices. It's totally counterintuitive to their business model. So in order for them to find their moment in the sun, they need low prices. And so it's not surprising that, as we bring the markets lower, we've just seen two of the biggest export weeks we've had all year. And we're 37% ahead on corn sales year over year. So as you work your way into lower markets, it now brings the buyer back into the game. And Mark talked about the big yields potential and big crops get bigger. Well, we're going to need a buyer for that. And we're not only just going to need a buyer, we're going to need a willing buyer with an appetite for that. And that happens in lower markets. And what that eventually will do then is bring momentum back to the upside as we start to introduce new issues. And I think to build off of Mark's point, the question we're asking right now is, what will be that issue? What will be that stick of dynamite that falls into this market and gets everybody excited and brings that spec short off of this massive level and back to the buy side and brings the natural buyer back with an appetite?
Well, we could actually see some U.S. acreage changes coming up in USDA's August report. We're going to talk about that when we come back, plus livestock market, some questions that need to be answered there. We'll check in with Mark as well as Mike on that when we come back.